Hello and welcome to this latest instalment in Sybiz Visipay tips and tricks. Today we're going to look at salary sacrificing to things other than superannuation. With Sybiz Visipay it's possible to salary sacrifice to super, of course, but you can also salary sacrifice to fringe benefits, so things like a private use of a company motor vehicle, and to exempt benefits, so things like eligible portable electronic devices. Now, salary sacrificing to super is relatively straightforward. It's just a matter of going to the employment tab in the employee record to set up the salary sacrifice. So that can either be a percentage or a fixed sum, and you can choose whether or not to apply the employer superannuation guarantee to the salary sacrifice as well. So very straightforward if you're salary sacrificing to super. But what if you want to salary sacrifice to something else? Now, before we go too much further, there's a lot of perils and pitfalls potentially within this area, so we're going to be working through an example that's just an illustration, and just to make it easier we're making certain assumptions that help us get through that demonstration. But as mentioned, there's a number of considerations for both fringe benefits and exempt benefits that you'll need to consider, and you should take advice specific to your circumstances. So just in a nutshell, what we're trying to achieve with salary sacrifice is to replace some salary or earnings with another benefit. So that could be a fringe benefit, an exempt benefit, or superannuation. And we want to preserve the entitlements such as superannuation. And the big thing that we're setting out to achieve is to reduce the tax payable by the employee. Now let's just have a look at a scenario. Simone is one of our employees. We've just started using the Sybiz Leave iPhone application for leave management, and we're also using Sales Focus on the iPads and Service Focus for VSM on the iPhone as well. So one of the things that Simone needs to do is justify to the tax office that these are indeed items that are primarily being used for her work purposes. So I think we've achieved that with those three remarkable applications. And our process here is to assume that both of those devices qualify as exempt benefits, and that our documentation and processes are in place to satisfy the requirements of the tax office. Getting into the nitty-gritty and setting it up, we obviously want to take a bit of a look at Simone's current tax situation and her current pay profile. Then we need to set up new pay items if we haven't done this before. We then need to adjust Simone's pay profile and check to ensure it's achieving what we want, which is to have Simone paying less tax, but at the same time having the same superannuation applied to her record as well. And just because Simone is going to be doing the salary sacrifice over a 12-month period, we want to set a reminder to ourselves to revert Simone's pay at the end of that salary sacrifice arrangement. So relatively straightforward, so let's take a look. Okay, so here we are now in Simone's pay profile, and what we'll do firstly, if you recall, we want to get a situation in which the employer superannuation is going to remain the same and the PAYG tax is going to be reduced. So the first thing we do is we add an earning. Now this will be a little bit disconcerting because it's actually a negative earning that we're doing to reduce the taxable income for Simone. And so let's just assume that the cost of the two items, the iPad and the iPhone, was $1,600, and we want to do that over a 12-month period, and we'll just put a negative sign in front to give us that negative earning of $133 and change per month. So we'll OK that, and if you've got really good eyesight, have a look at what happens to the PAYG amount of $11.09 as we click OK. So that has now dropped to $10.66. But the employer superannuation has remained the same at $493.28, which is what we're setting out to achieve. Now let's just say, for the sake of this exercise, that the actual benefits themselves are provided by way of 12 monthly instalments to the place that provided the iPhone and iPad. So the other option, I guess, is to have a single benefit applied to the pay period in question. So if that were the case, we'd sort of leave the pay profile here and then just take out, or rather add the benefit to Simone's pay when we process her next pay. But just, I guess, to keep it simple, we'll just assume that there's a benefit being applied on each of those 12-month periods as well. So here we just need to put in that same rate. We could use the calculator again or just key it in. Now we know what that rate is, and we can just OK that. And so now we have a situation where there's been a reduction in Simone's taxable pay, the employer superannuation contributions have remained the same, and the PAYG tax has reduced by quite a nice little chunk there. So that's essentially, I guess, one example of how to do a non-superannuation salary sacrifice in Sybiz Visipay. Okay, so there you have it. It's a relatively straightforward process once you know how. And I guess just to recap, we did have a fairly succinct, straightforward example just to show you what is possible, and we do recommend that you consult with your accountants and advisors, and also visit the ATO website searching for fringe benefits and exempt benefits just to get your head around what is available. Thank you.